On today's show, Isaac and I are going to answer your mailbag questions on Josh Richardson many, many times over.
Did Marvello, did he submit a question? That's all I want to know.
We'll talk about that, answer all your questions about that, and life advice coming up right now.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavs Podcast.
Hey, Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and coordinator for the Locked On Podcast Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, contributor at Mavs.com, the mailbag matriarch, the one more thinking. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Man, it's been a minute since we did a mailbag, a traditional mailbag, like straight up.
We asked for the postage. You write us a letter, send it to our P.O. box.
Exactly.
Take them out, letter opener, all that. 9 yards.
Before we get to questions, real quick standings update. Dallas is still in 5th. They're tied with the Lakers, so they have that tiebreaker because the Lakers suck.
Who said no one cared about divisions anymore?
Exactly.
The Dallas Mavericks care about divisions right now.
Portland is a half game up on them. And yeah, that's where we're standing right now. Going into a huge game at home against the Brooklyn Nets, which should be a lot of fun. KD, Kyrie, Luka.
We'll see. I'll finish the rhyme there. KD, Kyrie, we'll see. I mean, we never know what those guys want.
I was going to finish the rhyme and say no KP, but
yeah, but that one's not as fun.
Yeah,
so the Mavericks are 5th. And let me explain my comment earlier. If the Mavs, Lakers, and Blazers finish tied, they have the same exact record, then the tiebreaker is whoever wins their division. And since neither the Blazers or the Lakers are going to win their division, the Mavs are ahead in their division and are going to win it 100%. So the Mavs would win that tiebreaker. That's the first one they go to if there's a 3-way tie. Now, if there's a 2-way tie, it goes to, the first tiebreaker is whoever's record against the other, like this in-season series between those two teams. So the Mavs have the tiebreaker over the Lakers. They do not have it over the Blazers. But in a 3-way tie, they would beat. So you might be thanking the Lakers at some point during the end of the season if they tie, because the Mavs tie with the Blazers and so do the Lakers, then they win. If the Mavs tie with the Blazers and the Lakers don't, then the Blazers would win that one. Wild scenario. But today's episode is brought to you by Locker Room. Download the app and join us tonight at some point on Thursday. So download the app and follow me, Nick Van Exit, and you will be notified whenever we go live. Locker Room, changing the way we talk sports. All right, Isaac Harris. Today, we're getting into a mailbag about Luka being a name that many people have named their child. We will answer questions about Josh Richardson's future with the Mavericks, as well as his current situation with the Mavericks. What outcome of the Mavs season would be a disappointment? That one's a pretty interesting one. And then a couple life advice questions we'll get to, which I'm interested in. And then we'll do some rapid fire at the end to try to get to as many of these as we can. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get to the first one here. This is from Zach. Is the season considered a disappointment if the Mavs play Denver in the first round and lose?
I'm glad, man. It's so cool that you have that question, because I was literally thinking about that as I was looking at the standings a little bit ago. I don't know how to feel about it. Here's the thing. If they have a healthy KP and he is fully healthy and he plays every game, normal rotation and everything, I think it's disappointing that if you lose against Denver and they don't have Jamal Murray in the first round, I think it is disappointing. Now, I think there's a question of, okay, let's say KP's like half in, like he plays like a couple games in the series in some either, whatever it is. Then it's basically like Luka versus Jokic and then the supporting cast. I think it's wild to think about then. It's like, how do you walk out of that series and what do you learn from that series if that's the case? But I think I'm there. I think if they have a fully healthy team, KP's healthy, I think it is disappointment.
Yeah, it's all going to depend on the setup, right? Like where the chess pieces are when it happens. Because if they play the Clippers in the first round and KP's not healthy, then you're like, well, what do you do, right? Or if they play the Suns in the first round, or the the Lakers, even if they get to that point. And the Lakers are healthy with LeBron and AD, and LeBron may not be fully healthy because he may never be fully healthy again.
I know that's such a bummer. Just
but
to think about that.
If the Mavs play any of those teams, especially without KP, then it may take some of the sting off of that. I think Mavs fans will still be upset and say, I wish they would have won a first-round series. But given everything that's happened this season, it's probably a win to be in the position that they're in right now, especially if they play Denver. That means they got to 4 or they got to 5.
Yeah.
And then Denver fell down to 4, which I guess they could play them if they were 6 and 3. But anyway, yeah. But the Mavericks got to there. At one point, they were the Mavs were 14th. So this is a success of a season to end here anyway. But yeah, I don't know if it would be a full disappointment though. But yeah,
I think if you lose to Denver without Jamal Murray, I'm disappointed a lot.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And I think that's the only team that I'm fully disappointed on. This was my follow-up question. Of the teams in the top 6, is that the only team that if they lose in the first round too, you're walking out saying, or at least for me, dang, that's super disappointing. Like I would give them a chance. If they're fully healthy against Utah and Phoenix, I think the Clippers and Lakers, if they're fully healthy, it's a little bit different. But yeah, I don't know.
There's something in me that still would be disappointed if they lost to Utah. Especially depending on how Donovan Mitchell, let's do this the other way. If Donovan Mitchell's not healthy and the Mavs lose to the Jazz, right? Is that different than if Donovan Mitchell is healthy, right? So, is it disappointing then if the Mavs lose with an unhealthy Donovan Mitchell and he's hobbled and he just doesn't look right? So, that's the other one. It doesn't look like they're going to be in that position, right? To unless they are in the play-in and then they're in the play-in, they lose the first game and then they win the second game. Then they would probably play the Jazz. But I guess the Jazz and Suns could still flip the records at some point. It's all up in the air still.
How heartbreaking would it be for Phoenix that first time they make the playoffs and then Luka puts them out in the first round?
Like Luka of all players, right?
I know. That's the thing. It's like how heartbreaking would that be for their fans? Anyway.
Man, they would have a hard time. A hard time, I think. And I would encourage Mavs fans. I know we would want to Mavs fans would want to gloat and all that kind of stuff, but I'd be like, hey, these guys have been through a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe let's be a little nice about this.
They had goats, okay.
In their office that pooped on the floor. Oh man. All right. Yeah. So
Odell's like, what?
Yeah. Here's a quick one from Joseph. Does KP have enough time to come back and get in rhythm for the playoffs? Do we think the team will rest him until the playoffs? This is kind of going back to our question. What would you do with KP? There's 7 games left, 8 games left.
Yeah.
I said 2 numbers, but that's okay.
I know. That's why I just said, yeah. Yeah. I think
7.
They're definitely going to be cautious with it, but I would be surprised if he just doesn't play at all until the playoffs. I think you definitely want to get a few games under his belt. Now, what's a few? I think that's up for debate. Does a few mean more than 2? Or what does a couple mean?
What does a bunch of grapes mean? Couple.
But no, if I had to take a shot at it, I would say KP plays I'd say 3 to 4 games before the end of the season. That's my
3 to 4. I'm going 2 to 3. I'm going a couple. You're going a few. I think
it lands at 3. We're both right. 2, you're right. 4, I'm right.
Who's the most without going over? So yeah, but does that mean he's going to be back in rhythm for the playoffs? Can't answer that. Probably not. Right? It'll probably take a feel out game 1 for him to get there. That'll be crazy. Now, here's another thing. If the Mavs don't have to play in the play-in, they'll get some practice days, right? Yeah. 100% they'll get some practice days. And so that's a big thing to watch out for too. It's not just that you avoid the play-in. You get a bunch of days off there. Get guys healthy. Maxi's dealing with an injury right now. If the Mavericks are without KP and Maxi, no chance. I don't know against any of those teams if they don't have either of those guys, because all those teams have pretty good bigs.
Because I think that's more worth it than I think it's almost more worth it to have that rest than trying to angle to get somebody. Like if you're firmly in the camp of saying, I would rather play Utah than the Clippers, but it would take you playing in the play-in tournament. See, I think I would just if it meant I have because remember the play-in tournament starts on the 18th. The playoffs don't start until the 23rd, the 24th, the Sunday night or a Monday. So I mean, you're getting at least 4 to 5 days if you're not in that play-in tournament. And it might not sound like a lot, but that's an eternity when it comes to rest and some practice time. So yeah, getting out of that play-in tournament will be huge for them.
Coming up, we'll get into more questions about Josh Richardson's future and his past and his present with the Mavericks, and then get into some rapid fire questions, get to as many as we can. But before we do, let's talk about Headspace. Headspace is a daily dose of mindfulness in the form of guided meditations in an easy to use app. Wouldn't it be great if there was just a pocket-sized guide that could help you sleep, focus, act, and be better? All 4 of those things we need, right? Sleep, focus, act, and be better. We could use all those things. Headspace is that thing. It's one of the only meditation apps advancing the field of mindfulness and meditation through clinically validated research. So whatever the situation, Headspace really can help you feel better. If you're overwhelmed, and both of us, we are just before we recorded talking about our jobs and the stresses, and we're getting into our 30s, and now we're like, man, now we have real jobs, and we're like, dang, like you want to get like all through your 20s, you're like, I want to get to this point where I have these jobs, and then you get there, you're like, dang, all these stresses. Headspace is a 3-minute SOS meditation for you. You deserve to feel happier, and Headspace's meditation is made simple. Go to headspace.com/LockedOnNBA. That's headspace.com/LockedOnNBA for a free 1-month trial with access to Headspace's full library of meditations for every situation. This is the best deal offered right now. Go to headspace.com/LockedOnNBA today. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into some more mailbag questions here. There's a bunch on Josh Richardson. And, man, I don't know how to really address all of these. Here's one. Would you keep Josh Richardson or give Green the position next year? You had your choice. This is from Lewis.
Yeah, we have to see a little bit more from Josh Green. And that's his point. I mean, yeah, I got to see him being able to hit an open shot a little bit better. I got to see him handle the ball a little bit better. It's fun. His energy is super, like it sticks out a lot and love it. I hope it's contagious, but I think it's better in spurts right now. I don't know if I'm ready to hand him 30 minutes a night.
Quick sidebar question from Jay. What is Josh Green's ceiling?
Oh, Lord, I don't know. Yeah.
It's tough, right?
But I think all these questions right now, they're valid, but it's okay that we don't have answers for any of these because the dude just started playing. Right. So it'd be like us asking, this question about LaMelo or Sadiq Bey or some of these like rookies who have been in a rotation since day one. That would be like us asking that in the first week of the NBA season. Like, what's the ceiling of Sadiq Bey? It's like, we don't really know because he hadn't played very much. I mean, how many games has Josh Green played over 15 minutes? I don't know. It's not a lot. So honestly, any of those questions about his ceiling, long-term fit, long-term role, long-term position, any of that, I don't think anybody can answer that right now because we haven't seen enough.
Yeah, no, we have not seen enough at all. That'd be basically like, so Josh Green has played 350 minutes. I was just looking this up. That's like saying what LaMelo Ball's ceiling is after 14 games in the amount of minutes that LaMelo Ball has played.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's just impossible right now.
But to me, I think it all, and we can go back to a little bit of our scouting, our draft profile of him. He projects to be a 3-and-D type player, but he's got to hit the 3, and he's got to hit the 3 well, and at least like a 36% rate to be considered that. We also have seen that he's a pretty decent passer, and we've seen he's got a little bit of, put the ball on the deck, not necessarily finisher on the rim, but put the ball on the deck and make a play happen. Great hustle guy and all that kind of stuff. Seems to be a guy that's not going to take any crap. He was getting some from the Heat players, and he was jawing back at them. And so just that, the 3-and-D wing role player, I think that he could really fill out that and fill in that and be a solid starter in the NBA, but we're just not sure about that 3 ball. That's what it all depends on. It's kind of the same thing we've said about Dorian Finney-Smith, and we saw how that worked. So we'll hopefully be saying the same thing, but it may be 2 or 3 years down the line, which I know many Mavs fans don't want to wait that long.
Yeah. I mean, he's 6'5". He gives endless amount of energy. I mean, just off the top of your head, just off of that, like those measurements and energy and defense and everything, like, could he be a Marcus Smart one day? I don't know. Like, but that's like that's
Like
the
on
mold.
defense, not on
Yeah,
offense.
but that's like the mold avenue that you're like, hey, can you go down that route? And so, but that's still, we just haven't seen it. I mean, I looked it up. He's played over 20 minutes this season 5 times. So, wait, and yeah, I mean, so
A
and he
lot of those
said,
are probably blowouts, right? So
yeah, and he set out a ton of games this year. So, but I mean, y'all know that you're watching the games.
this is from a political dud. Do you think that Josh Richardson will
Hmm.
accept his player option? Back to Josh Richardson questions.
Oh, I was just texting some people about this a few days ago. I'm fascinated about what he does this offseason now. I have a tweet, and y'all can go find it and laugh at it. I don't care. Y'all can dig it up. I have a tweet before the season started when Luke Kennard got paid, and I tweeted out a picture of Josh, and it's him like at practice, and it's like saying, and I put like a meme with it. Luke Kennard got paid what? And because I thought Josh was going to get just the bank this summer, because I just thought this whole situation was going to be a perfect situation for him. He was going to thrive next to Luka and be this point guard defender and everything. And it just hasn't worked out. So honestly, I don't know. And I mean, does he want a better fit, into the summer? But then I think either way he's on a different team, and he probably knows if he opts in, then he's going to get traded somewhere else. But I will say this: his agent is somebody that has connections with Dallas and is an agent that you want on a very good side with your team.
That is an interesting thought. Yeah, the thing about Josh Richardson is that this is now 2 teams in a row that have been bad fits, where he's just basically been asked to be like himself, or like be a decent version of himself, I guess, with the Sixers and the Mavs. And they're both different situations. They both presented different challenges. And so now it's like, okay, well, is he only good if he's in that Miami culture, that Miami system? And what is he outside of that? Now, 2 years in, we're kind of like, we still don't know what that is. So it'd be interesting to see, because maybe he wants a longer term deal, but I would guess he would turn that down, just especially considering all the teams that are going to have money and the amount of free agents that are still out there and what he can still project to be for somebody. Like, it only takes one team to talk themselves into him.
Yeah, and will he take a lower offer 1 year prove it deal with like a good team? Like, would his player options for like 11 million? And if he declined that and said, "All right, I'll take the full mid level at like 8 million for a good playoff team," if they had that open,
Or to go back to Miami.
Yeah, something like that, and saying, "Hey, I want to prove that I'm deserving of another long-term deal." So, yeah, we'll see. But I don't. It's fascinating what happens with him this summer. I think Tim Hardaway's summer, as weird as it is, I think Tim Hardaway's summer is easy to try to predict than Josh Richardson.
Yeah, well, his season has been, and Tim Hardaway as a player has been easier to predict than Josh Richardson.
Yeah.
Here's a quick one from Jobo. If the season stopped today, would you reverse the Curry trade? Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what, like, at this point in the season, I'm ready to call that one, we not a win. I think we've seen enough from Josh Richardson. We were like the last people, I feel like, on the island of hold on, let's give Josh some time. He's coming back from COVID, and now it's like, all right, man, it doesn't seem like it's working out. He just doesn't. And maybe this last game will kick him into a different gear, and maybe we'll see it. Josh Richardson over the last 7 games in the playoffs that will change our minds about this. But
yeah,
I would rather take the one elite skill from Curry than I would take the grab bag from Josh Richardson we're getting.
Yeah, it goes back to what we were saying maybe yesterday, just the wide range of it. Did I think if we kept Seth Curry, do I think we could hit this like new peak ceiling of a team? No. I think what Josh could have been, it would have risen the ceiling for the Mavericks defensively and everything. It just didn't work. It's just now the bottom floor of this Richardson experiment in Dallas is him like not playing some in the second halves or fourth quarters, and literally Josh Green, a rookie, passing him up on that. I don't think there's ever a world in which Seth Curry is totally out of the rotation in second halves if he's still on the team. But it's that whole thing. It's like Seth Curry's floor was higher on Dallas, but Josh Richardson's ceiling was higher for Curry than Curry in Dallas. Yeah, potentially. And
it doesn't seem to be now.
It doesn't seem to me now, but yeah.
Coming up, more questions. We'll get into some more stuff. We got to talk about the top 3 player names that you would name, but that you name your kids after. We'll get into that and some life advice questions coming up. But before we do, BetOnline.ag is your one-stop shop to put some money down on sports. Go there, use the promo code LOCKEDON to get a 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. That's free money that you can put some money down on sports. Tomorrow, they have a couple of games already up. Lakers, Clippers. That's the TNT game after the Mavs and Nets TNT game. And Clippers, an 8-point favorite over the Lakers. Not surprising here, especially since not sure if LeBron's going to play. He may have already been declared out at this point, but that was an interesting one. 8 points. Also, the Warriors, a 14-point favorite over the Thunder. 14 points is a lot of points. I don't know about that one. I'm interested. Tons of game props you can do too. Let's see. There's a ongoing... you can, like, while games are playing, you can go on the website, search for ongoing props and things like that. There's a 6 minute of the year right now. If you want to go check that out, or they're just starting to put these on the website. So you check it out, betonline.ag, use the promo code LOCKEDON. Again, get a 50% welcome bonus to the first deposit. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Also want to tell you about RockAuto.com. Isaac and I know nothing about cars, but we know the exact right pieces and exact right parts that we can put in our car, from carpet, windshield wipers, all the way up to complicated stuff that we wouldn't know how to get. But you can get it at rockauto.com. They have everything from engine control modules, brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even that sweet, sweet smelling new carpet smell for your car. Whether it's your classic or your daily driver, get everything you need in a few easy clicks and get it delivered directly to your door. You don't have to go somewhere, have somebody go in the back room and see if they have it, and then have to order it. You might as well just order it yourself at that point. Best of all, prices at rockauto.com are always reliably low, and the same for professionals and do-it-yourselfers. Why would you want to spend up to twice as much for the same parts? Go to rockauto.com right now, see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in there. How did you hear about us box? So they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into some more mailbag questions. Here's one I've been wanting to get to. This is from Jacob H. Shout out to Jacob. Great fan of the show. News says that there's been a surge in kids named Luka across the U.S. and DFW. Who would be your top 3 NBA players to name your kid after? Assuming that he says Nick Van Wifey, which is an interesting nickname, has approved already. Man, this is an interesting question. Top 3 names.
It's so hard because I have some names that you're like, I think would be cool. Like, I think Ja would be super cool. But
I have one of my best friends back home is named Jaja, so I couldn't do that. I couldn't just name him after.
I think that's a really cool name. But it's like, are you naming them after somebody because it's like, oh, you want to honor the player type thing, or is it just like a cool name? So like, I think Ja's cool. I think even though this is a nickname, I think Bam is cool.
Bam is a cool name. Bam Harris. Oh, that kid's playing defensive end somewhere. Defensive tackle.
But those are like the 2 that I think of, but I would just never name my kid after an NBA player.
I mean, after everything we've seen, I think there may only be one player that I've been around that I would name my kid. If I'm going to give, the namesake of one of my kids to a player, I think it would be Dirk. Like,
I thought he was going to say Magic.
No. Just the tweets alone take Magic out of the running.
His Twitter is so bad.
Like, the person for me personally, it would have to be a NBA player or a player that like also lived pretty morally too, right? And also like was an incredible person, not necessarily a basketball player. So like Dirk lived up to everything that I would ever want in a public figure, in an NBA player, in an ambassador, like all that stuff. And so if I was going to name after one person, I would probably be Dirk, and that's probably it, to be honest. I don't know if anybody else is like, you're not naming your kid Michael Jordan Harris, right? Like
Vince
Carter Harris.
No, Dirk would be the only, I guess the only one. Deshaun's probably out, but
I think it's crazy that I said Dirk before you, but I just want to point that out.
I just went with the fun name route. I didn't like go deep on it, like who would I actually want to name?
Oh, yeah, if we're going with fun names, can we go outside? Can I name my kid DeBrickashaw? Can I? If we're going outside NBA,
Go Brick.
There you go. I found that question really interesting. Quick one. Let's go do some rapid fire. Mendelson says, for next year, you can have one of Luka shooting 42% from 3 or 85% at the line. Which one did you choose?
42% from 3.
He's getting there a couple times this, like he's inching closer to that this year.
Yeah, but he hits 42, then we're talking he's averaging over 30 a game.
And we know that he's not going to change the way he shoots, right?
Yeah.
What's one thing the Mavs can focus on against each playoff contender, and what would be your solution? What would Rick do? This is a very broad question.
Lord.
This is such a. We're not even gonna answer that one. But Mr. Crow, I read your question.
Hey, Luka's gonna post up. Let's say that.
Luka's gonna post up. We're gonna have KP stretch the floor. We're gonna have run the ball off of the side pick and roll against Denver. Like we're gonna do all kinds of different.
Luka KP pick and rolls, a little bit more of those.
Next season, do you think the most important thing for Luka is to improve his conditioning? Can't imagine Luka being a bit leaner and more muscular. He will go Super Saiyan. Yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah, that's a quick answer. Mr. Crow asked a real question. With all this indie chaos, can we get Miles Turner in Dallas? Let's get it done. So there's some insane stuff happening at the Pacers, but their team is bottoming out. They're just they're in the play-in, I think, now, but their team is just not playing well. Their defense is awful. Their coach may just leave on his own accord, which is wild. And then you have the whole thing that happened with Gogo Batazzi and the coach Bjorkgren, where
Greg
he was
Foster.
Oh, was that the coach?
It was assistant coach Greg Foster, but
that was yeah.
Wrong, bald white guy.
And so I got it wrong too. I would have guessed that. Yeah. So there's all kinds of weird stuff with that. Miles Turner was holding back that coach. I don't know. Miles Turner in Dallas, though. I don't know if that solves a lot of your problems either.
No, yeah, he's cool. I like him. But it goes again, like I want to trade for a wing. I want a perimeter guy. As long as KP's on the roster. If KP's on the roster, then I want to make a trade for another creator, another wing guy, perimeter guy. Yeah.
Do you think Tim Hardaway Jr. could fill the Jason Terry role on a Mavs championship team?
Sure.
Let's not cheapen what Jason Terry did.
No, but like the scorer off the bench, yeah. Yeah.
I just think there's a level of clutch Jet hit in that run that I don't know.
They say, could he be? It's like, yeah, we got to see Tim hit some shots in the playoffs and, see him get a tat on his bicep heading to the playoffs, something like that. Then, I mean, let's see it. But could he play that role? He could. Yeah.
All right, let's do some life advice. So if you guys don't want to hear our life advice, go ahead and end the podcast here. But what's the perfect first date with a potential significant other? This is from DeAndrick.
You can go first.
Perfect first date is depending on the person. It honestly
Watching
does.
Avatar.
That would be get some popcorn. Watch
Nick's
Avatar.
over there. Hey, Netflix and chill.
I was gonna say, did you just tell me to Netflix and chill with
Avatar
the first
and
date?
chill? Or?
The perfect first date to me is you can't don't go do the movie thing, right? Don't go do that.
No.
You have to talk. You have to get to know somebody, and you have to actually sit down, have a conversation, and be in a position where you can be there for a while, I think.
Yeah. Because
you want to get to know that person as well as you can right off the bat. Because for us, at least, like we're very serious about our relationships. Did you date anybody else besides your wife?
Yeah. Yeah. In high school.
Yeah, but not like outside of that. So when we were like dating, we were like, all right, this is for real. And we want this to end in marriage at some point. And so to get to that point, you have to know as much as you can about that person. So
yeah,
dinner,
something that you can talk, engage in. Don't do some like loud restaurant and then straight to a movie. You're achieving nothing at that point. You don't even know if they get on your nerves, but you got to get to know them a little bit. And
it'd be fun. Like it might be fun to do that, but do that on date. Like, what are we on? Like 1,000?
At this point, we just go on dates and we don't talk. So it's just like, all right,
it's nice to not talk about it. We were almost together 10 years with dating and being friends and everything before that. Yeah. All right. Question for you, but specifically for Isaac. What advice would you give to young fathers out there trying to balance being a father and a husband, their faith, and also the passion, which in this case would be watching the Mavericks and the NBA in general?
I'm actually going to plug another podcast that I was on about this a while back.
You say Mavs Daily, I'll punch you right through the screen.
It's incredible. Dr. Kevin Gilliland.
Shout out to Bobby.
Love Bobby. Dr. Kevin Gilliland, he hosts a podcast called Struggle Well, Live Well, Worry Less. And he had me on to talk about my career and balancing my career in the church as a pastor and also as a writer, podcaster in the sports world, and just how I balance that with family and and everything. And so it's a deeper discussion, and it's a non-sports discussion for the most part too. So I recommend that. And we answer a lot of these questions. And for me, when I started, my life after high school, I wanted to pursue my passions. That's what I tell people all the time. It's like, don't try to chase some, paycheck, chase your passions. And it's like your passions will win out. It's like, I wanted to look at my life later on and say, I get to wake up and do what I love to do. And I get up and I get to serve my calling, what I feel like the Lord's placed on my life as a pastor, but I also get to watch Mavericks games and go to games and see these guys and talk to players in the locker room. And because my passions just went out in that. But passions take you to a certain point. And it's like, my family comes first. So setting those boundaries are so key. And a small thing, I'll give a small thing, but go to that podcast, listen to the rest of it. Small thing I do. Well, every time I walk in the door, when I come home, my smartwatch goes off and it goes into the bedroom. Now, my phone, I'll charge my phone. I'll leave my phone set around, but that watch, it's cool during the day to get things done, but it's another touch point. And it's like, I've noticed, so if I have my watch, then I'm just out. It's like every text, every email, everything, every sports updates coming through my watch. And I'm like, dang, I'm eating dinner with my kids, looking at my watch. So now the watch goes up. And I'm still checking my phone here and there, but the watch goes up because we got to take away these touch points to where we're in the moment, because I don't want my son to be sitting in a classroom one day and they say, hey, draw your parents. And all of a sudden he's handing a paper to me that night and it's a picture of a phone, because I don't want my son to draw his parent and draw his dad and it's a picture of a phone, because that's all he sees. So there has to be boundaries. There has to be things that are set in place, and you got to keep them. You got to have accountability on it too.
Preach, Reverend Harris.
Let's go. Let's do it.
I'll say the other thing just about being, a husband and trying this sports thing, especially with different, my wife's a teacher. And so we have completely different schedules. They want to be made a priority in your life, right? And to show that you can make them a priority in some way. And so you can do that in your own way. It doesn't have like the timing. If you want to watch the game live, then you make them a priority before the game, or if they can stay up late afterwards, like just make it a point to make them a priority. And then you'll find out what their love languages are, right?
Yeah.
If this is your and do those things, and don't just do the things that you think will make them feel loved.
Exactly.
All that kind of stuff. If you want to learn about love languages, that's like a next level of relationship. We talked about first date, and now we're talking like that next level.
Changes everything though. It does.
It does. It changes how you look at stuff, how you interact with your loved one, and all that. So, all right. Hope you guys enjoyed that. If you want more life advice, we'll do that more. We're totally stealing it from Ryan Russillo, but we like that segment. And so we thought we could do a similar one. So we will be back after the Nets and Cavs games. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.